Hello, Braves Country. This is Coach Ken Anderson coming for Hardcore Braves, and today we got a special guest in house, and it's Mr. Chad Bishop from the AJC. How you doing today, Chad?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I've known Chad, been friends for him, talking to him for like 3 years. I asked him when he come to Tech. I remember when he started with Tech, and it was 2023. And we always joke with him whenever he touches something, there's a Chad bump. So I gave him a hard time when I saw him at the stadium. We're going to get the same bump here in 26, and it looks like we have, Chad.
Man, no one could imagine 28 and 13 though, right? Like, holy cow, right? What a fun ride. I was telling someone this the other day. I've been really fortunate. I started in journalism, back in '04 as an intern. But the first beat I was on was Western Kentucky in 2011. First year they ever went to a bowl game, and they kind of took off Western Kentucky football. That is, I went to two NCAA tournaments covering that team. Vanderbilt was a little bit different. They were still in the doldrums football wise and basketball wise, but baseball was, I went to the College World Series with the Vanderbilt baseball team, and then started covering Georgia Tech, and Brent Key. His tenures coincided with my covering the team as well. So pretty cool that I've been fortunate to cover a lot of really, really good teams, a lot of good people, a lot of wins. Makes my life really, really easy.
Yeah, and you were part of the Dansby Swanson at Vanderbilt.
No, this
You
was
were around that time. Yeah.
yeah, this was I was there from 19 to 23.
Okay.
Familiar names for folks, maybe Jack Leiter, Kamar Rocker, Spencer Jones, who just got called up by the Yankees. JJ Bleday is in the MLB, has been for a couple years. And who am I thinking of? The speedster for Baltimore now, Enrique Bradfield,
Yeah.
another familiar name. So yeah, I mean, you guys know that program. I mean, it churns out MLB kids left and right, and I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of them and get to know some of them.
Yeah, it's a very good program, and I promised all my Tech folk we'll get to Tech at the end of the show. So y'all, I know you'll want to know how he feels about us. But first of all, one thing I want to talk to you about is you've always been kind of the college scene, and that tends to
Yep.
be more internally and maybe a week thing. Now with the Braves, you're traveling all the way across the country. How's that affected you?
Yeah, it's an adjustment. It is a daily grind, and this starts before the season. Back in spring training, the first week, second week of Florida, it's nonstop. Whether that's going to a game, going to the clubhouse, dealing with roster moves, writing feature stories. There aren't. We were joking before we started, right? Like today's an off day, but there's no off days. There's always something today. Hassan Kim is going to be activated this week. Someone's getting called up, sent down. Free agent sign, whatever the case may be. But honestly, like it keeps it fun. It keeps you on your toes, and I mean, when you love what you do, like it doesn't really feel like work. I go to a baseball stadium and watch a baseball game every day, so I can't really complain about a daily grind. But yeah, it is different than going to a couple of football practices during the week and then a football game. I mean, it's every single day. And then just came off a ten day road trip out west, home for 6 days, back to Miami. Yeah, I mean, it's back and forth, crisscrossing everywhere, but racking up those Delta miles, man, that's a bonus too.
One more West Coast trip to make,
Yep.
and you'll be done for the year before the July 1st. That's good.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the way the schedule worked out this year, right, is like they're not going to play Seattle every year. They're not going to play Anaheim every year on the road, right? So those were two that they're kind of out there on this particular schedule. Won't always be like that year after year. They'll be a little bit more Midwest and a little more Eastern centric the next few years, but really cool to be able to go out west. And I guess we got three West Coast trips this year if you include Anaheim and Arizona early in the year. So yeah, a lot of trips to the Pacific time zone.
yeah, I'll be glad that I think all Braves country when they finally finish the last one. So San Francisco and San Diego. So I've been, as you know, Chad, 38-year season ticket holder. So I've kind of gone through the whole. And of course, Bo is the longest tenured now, especially with Dave retiring. And I always ask this question to them, so I'm going to ask you: how do you handle getting the article out? Because you got to do writing, plus you have the interviews. How are you handling that as you're working in the press box?
It's a pretty good routine, and what's the phrase, how the sausage is made. I can let
Yeah.
people kind of know my routine anyway, right? Like to Tuesday, the Braves play the Cubs. Clubhouse will be open 3:30, I think, usually on
Yeah.
home game night games. So I leave my house at 3, head to the press box, set my stuff down, go to the clubhouse. Tomorrow, for instance, Tuesday, Ha-Sung Kim's first day with the team. So that's your story. You go talk to Ha-Sung Kim. You go talk to Walt Weiss at 4:20, and then you file a story on Ha-Sung Kim before the game even starts. You go watch some batting practice. You talk to some guys. You joke around. You sniff around, see what's going on, and then the game starts at 7 ish. And my routine is to write the game story as it happens. So Drake Baldwin homer in the first inning. There's a paragraph, and it's called a running gamer. And so when that game ends, boom, you hit submit, and it's already done. Then you go to the clubhouse, you go talk to Walt Weiss, you talk to the players, you come back, you plug in quotes on that game story, their reaction of what happened. A lot of times it's very easy because the game is Sunday in Los Angeles at 7-2. That story's written. The tough ones are the walk-offs or the blown saves or the extra inning games. And sometimes it's okay to not file something, what we call at the buzzer, to sort of wait a little bit. If you have to Control Alt Delete that entire story, you can just hold off and file one a little bit later at night. So there's not a lot of pressure. No one's. It's not like it's 1976 and you're having to pick up the phone and dictate your story just to an editor back on a copy desk. Everything's so digitized now. It's a pretty easy process.
That's kind of what they always kind of say. So, got to ask the question just because of Bo. How's it like working with him? And has he pulled any kind of practical joke on you yet?
No, maybe he's gotten a little soft in his old age, and I hope he hears me say that. No. Mark Bowman's great. For those who don't know, he's been covering the team for 25 years for MLB.com, and a lot of folks don't know he actually started in the Braves organization as like a video employee, cutting up tape and of swings and pitchers and things like that. And MLB.com was created in 2000, 2001, and he raised his hand and had a bit of a journalism background in high school and college, and said I'd do it, and he's been doing it ever since. And he's kind of like a mentor to me and one of our other new writers, Jesus Cano, who just started with The Athletic, just because he's been around, and it's so easy just to sort of watch him go about his business and not necessarily emulate him, but it's kind of funny, right? Like you hear young baseball players look up to veterans in the clubhouse about how they go to a business. You might hear J.R. Ritchie talk about Chris Sale. Well, maybe me and some other writers are watching Mark Bowman and how he goes about things, how he develops relationships, how he writes stories, how he can be critical, right, but do it in a manner that's respectful. So yeah, it's been good working with him. He hasn't pulled one over on me yet, but again, maybe that's coming. Maybe there's a slow play. Maybe there's a missed flight in my future or something.
Yeah, he may be getting soft too.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
Justin had said Toscano, who used to be with AJC, he said it was kind of nice because Bo, I guess being the most senior, gets to ask the first question. You can always kind of tell real quick on how the player or Walt is, or in their case, Snip was feeling. That kind of makes it easier for you. And it says Bo can take the first error if they're not in a good mood.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's we defer to Bowman to ask that first question. I mean, it's his right, having been around the team and done it so long. And like you said, I mean, everybody in the organization knows him because he's been around so long, whether it's Fred Stone in the clubhouse or whether it was, former groundskeeper Ed Mangan. I mean, Rob on the video team, all the way up to, the front office. Everybody knows him. And because of that, he's able to get a lot of great stories. I do have one great story he told me about our good friend Gabe Burns, former beat writer for the AJC, who's still with us, who does enterprise stories. And you all remember that night Ronald Acuna was called up and ended up hitting his first home run in Cincinnati. Well, that was Gabe Burns' first road trip covering the Braves, and poor Gabe just had no idea that Ronald Acuna was getting called up. And of course, Bo had his sources and he was tipped off, and he laughs about writing the Ronald Acuna story in the press box, and poor Gabe just had no idea that was happening. And that's happened to all of us. It's a tough feeling when you get beat on a story like that, but that just goes to show, what Bo's knowledge of the game and his relationships with everybody around Atlanta.
Yeah, and Gabe's a great guy too.
Yep.
Everybody likes Gabe. So let's go and get to the team. You come in the best record in baseball. Just in general, how do you feel the team looks, atmosphere around them, how they're approaching the games? They look like a very confident baseball team.
No doubt. Yeah, I was on the phone with my dad this morning and just marveling that it's not supposed to be this way. When Ronald Acuna gets hurt, when Raisel Iglesias gets hurt, when you have Spencer Strider and Spencer Schwellenbach get hurt out of spring training. I'm sure I'm missing some injuries along the way. Your bullpen has been taxed. To be 28-13 is remarkable. It seems like no matter what move this team has made, roster wise, it's worked out. Mauricio Dubon has been amazing. Dominic Smith from the DH spot has been outstanding. You call up J.R. Ritchie, most rookies are going to struggle, and that kid has been outstanding. Utilizing Didier Fuentes in the bullpen. I mean, every single move that this team has made, I'm sure it's calculated, right? Like that's what these guys get paid a lot of money to do. But there's so many times in a baseball season where you say, oh man, that didn't work, that pitcher didn't work out, this position player didn't work out. Even Jonah Heim being with the team right for a month, what he meant to this team early on, being that in that sort of backup catcher role. I mean, you guys remember that he had a streak going where there wasn't any earned runs scored against the Braves while he was behind the plate. I mean, he was catching every shutout. So just like I've just marveled at how everything has sort of gone right. But more in depth to your question, I think it is because of the clubhouse. I talked to Mauricio Dubon on Sunday about it. Like, it really does seem like everybody has each other's back. Whether it's Eli White crashing into the wall, Mauricio Dubon crashing into the wall, Jim Jarvis getting caught up and making a crazy diving play. The pitchers, Grant Holmes being willing to skip a start and go sit in the bullpen for a little bit. Martin Perez doing what he has to do to be a part of this rotation. Reynaldo Lopez moving to the bullpen to work. Everybody seems to be on the same page and pulling for each other. It sounds cliche. I would imagine a lot of clubhouses say that, but it looks like this one actually truly means it.
Yeah, and being around them this long, it usually can tell the difference in the team. And I saw it early. It seems like this team really has great chemistry. And I owe that to Alex. Alex set out in October, and I'm sure, Chad, you heard it because you were in the Atlanta area, that his biggest thing was getting the team back to team chemistry and be on the same page. And I think all the hires he did was to get this group here. Just an outstanding job by Alex in the offseason.
You look at a guy like Kyle Farmer. We mentioned Dominic Smith, Mauricio Dubon, Martin Perez. It's an older team. Mike Yastrzemski, right? Like, even though Mike has struggled at the plate, I mean, how he goes about his business in a professional manner. Didier Fuentes mentioned Carlos Carrasco being around as a mentor, as an influence. So yeah, the clubhouse vibe is good. I mean, I'm thinking off the top of my head yesterday, guys are all over the clubhouse mixing and mingling with each other. And I've heard stories already of other clubhouses where it's one clique over here, one group over here. These folks don't talk to those folks. And I don't get that sense in this Braves clubhouse. Now, maybe that changes if they go on a 7 or 8 game losing streak, but it's easy to be chummy, right, when everybody's winning. But I don't foresee that happening. I think this team is really close and continuing to bond and really generally likes each other.
Yeah, I think you brought up good points too. There have been a lot of mixed parts. People have took out of roles and stuff. And I think you start as an old coach, winning and losing does affect it, but those things sometimes can be, you can see the crux of people's egos getting in the way. And I don't see a lot of egos on this team right here.
But just think on paper how easy it would be for Grant Holmes to, cause a stink because he didn't get to start, or he might have to go to the bullpen for a bit, or Martin Perez to say, you know what, I'm leaving this organization. I want to go pitch somewhere else full time. Mauricio Dubon, I mean, he knows his strength as a utility player. He talked about it in spring training, but he's starting the year at shortstop, and all of a sudden he's in center field and left field, and who knows where he ends up now that Ha-Seong Kim is back. But again, there hasn't been any griping, at least publicly. But I don't get the sense that there has been a lot inside the clubhouse as well. I mean, guys are accepting their role. And we talked about veteran guys who are really just trying to win. That's what it all comes down to, and doing whatever it takes to win. Again, it's a pretty rare thing and been enjoyable to watch from my perspective.
Yeah, I think it has been for whole Braves country. Speaking of Mauricio Dubon, we've been asking this question of all the guests as we just started up this podcast. Which comes first, the extension or the statue? Because he's playing phenomenal.
I would think the extension first.
Yeah.
He is so well liked in that clubhouse. You can see the reverence Walt Weiss has for Mauricio Dubon. And again, it's not just the ability on the field to make the play or to get the hit. It's to do whatever it takes and whatever's asked of him, and to be the clubhouse guy. I mean, he's friends with everyone in the clubhouse. He's become friends with a lot of us in the media, and he shoots it straight too. He had a great discussion with us the other day about he doesn't mind reporters being critical of him or his teammates, but they better be able to back it up and they better show their face in the clubhouse if they're going to do that. So just that sort of shows his mindset, right? Of like he is very competitive and very serious about what he does. And man, just it's interesting to me to see that this is how his career has gone right to this point. Like everybody's counted him out, never really given him a starting role. He talked about it in spring training. Same thing happened in Houston. He's kind of a throwaway signing, and he seems to find his way in the lineup and contributes. And he's definitely doing it for Atlanta. And man, they couldn't be more thankful of how he's contributed.
Yeah, I told everybody when we brought him in, before we even had the podcast, we've only been up like 40 days, but back on my personal page, I said he's one of the most clutch hitters you'll ever see. He'll be 0 for 4, and then also he'll hit a double with the bases loaded. He's done that a lot. So great signing. So lots of transactions could be coming. We had one today that we know of. Ha-Seong Kim is coming tomorrow. Eli White's going on the concussion protocol. First of all, anything new or how you felt after the game on Eli? And then what do you think about Ha-Seong Kim coming back?
Eli's probably the right move. I mean, you don't want to, you don't want to mess around with concussions, and it's May, and it's a 7-day stint, and why risk it? And when we have someone like Mauricio Dubon who can play multiple positions, Mike Yastrzemski can play multiple outfield spots. Michael Harris is healthy. Jorge Mateo, we don't talk about him a lot, but he can play the outfield as well. And there's a chance, that Ronald Acuna comes back pretty soon, and that solves a little bit of your outfield depth as well. So I think it's a great move to give Eli, some time off to make sure he is 100% because we don't want to mess around with concussions at all. Ha-Seong Kim coming back, that really won't affect anything right now because of Eli White going on the IL. But I think Jim Jarvis is probably a kid that'll be the first one to go. I mean, he's a rookie, has options. That's what we always have to look right with these transactions, right? Is the options. How young is a kid? Can he be sent back and forth? A J.R. Ritchie, a Jim Jarvis, a Didier Fuentes, those guys can be sent out and called back up later. So I think that'll probably happen, soon. If Ronald Acuna comes back, you could look at a guy like Jim Jarvis, who contributed greatly and will probably continue to contribute this week. But he'll be the first option to go back to AAA, one of the first, I should say. And on the pitching side, as great as J.R. Ritchie has done, as great as Didier Fuentes has done, you got a lot of starter pitching on this team. And down the line, we got Spencer Schwellenbach possibly coming back, Hunter Waldrop possibly coming back. Can't forget about AJ Smith-Shawver coming back. So there's a lot of guys whose spots are sort of held in place over here. There's going to be transactions and roster moves. I wrote about it today, man. This roster already looks completely different than it did in February, and it's going to continue to evolve and change. And so it's, fans really shouldn't take those moves personally because these guys are going to contribute down the line. It's just a matter of when, not necessarily if.
I totally agree. You mentioned him. So Ronnie Bo's kind of hinted a little bit. I know you have. So what do you think with him? Y'all got to see him run in California.
Yeah.
The good thing with his leg, he should still be taking batting practice and all that. So I wouldn't think he needed a rehab assignment. So could you see him coming out this homestand?
I think it's possible. You can sort of tell by Walt Weiss's body language. He's a little hesitant to throw Ronald back in there. I don't think you want to do any more significant damage to a hamstring. I mean, you know how tender those things can be, and if you come back too soon and pull it or strain it again, then what was all the rehab for in the first place? But we did see him running every single day out there in Los Angeles. He was being kind of silly and taking balls at first base, his usual fun self, which I thought was fun to see. I'm probably a little bit more positive on Ronald returning sooner than later. But again, Walt Weiss doesn't seem to be super gung ho on that. You can sort of see he's holding back a little bit, and understandably so. I mean, again, it's only May. There's no point in rushing him back, especially when we talked about when you have guys like Eli White, Mike Yastrzemski, Mauricio Dubon, Mike Harris on the roster who can sort of fill in the short term. But hopefully he'll be back soon. But if not this homestand, I don't think it'll be too far after that, because again, he is out there moving, he is out there jogging and running. Doesn't look to be in any sort of severe pain or sitting around the clubhouse doing nothing. He is working his way back.
Yeah, the 9-game lead really helps them to be patient with him, which is really good. So you mentioned the pitchers. Of course, I get questions all the time being the former pitching coach. It's hard windows here. So we got AJ Smith-Shawver, we got Hurston Waldrop, and we got Spencer Schwellenbach. From what I've heard, and you can denounce it if it's not what it is. It seems like Hurston maybe a little bit sooner than the rest of them, than AJ and Spencer. So, in your opinion, those three guys, what's going on with them?
The last time I talked to Spencer Schwellenbach, this is probably a month ago, 3 weeks ago. He told me that he was scheduled to have a doctor's appointment early May, and if all things checked out, he could start throwing then. Now I haven't spoken to Spencer since, and we were on the road for 10 days, and hopefully he'll be in the clubhouse Tuesday, and we can catch up and sort of see where he stands. I believe Hurston Waldrop threw a bullpen session last week, so that's great news for him. AJ Smith-Shawver, if I'm not mistaken, he was posting on his Instagram story recently of him throwing too. So again, with these guys, and they're all elbow injuries, they're probably all on different timelines, but it does look very possible that they will be eligible to return sometime this summer, whether that's June, July, August, all three on the same month, all three different months. Again, it's going to be like free agency or trade deadline acquisitions for this pitching staff to have all three of these guys kind of staggered and coming back. What role does that mean? I don't know. Are they going to be starting games? Are they going to be bullpen guys? Are they going to be none of the above, or are some of them going to just spend the remainder of the year in AAA trying to build back up and kind of be saved for 27? Probably not what fans want to hear, but you got to be smart with these guys, young pitchers who have great futures ahead of them. And with the way Atlanta's pitching right now, not to say they don't need them, but they look pretty good with the pitching staff that they have. So it'll be a bonus and a good problem to have once these guys start to trickle back into the fold, to try to figure out how to use them and how to deploy them through the second half or later third of the season.
I think it's going to be interesting how they do that. And it'll really be based on the pitchers. And again, I tell all our people, we have a 9-game lead, so that helps in making sure they're healthy. One other thing that we get asked a lot, and I don't know if you get a chance to follow, so how much of the minor leagues do you get to kind of keep an eye on or hear from the Braves, being around them? The three kids that we really like here at Hardcore Braves are having really good seasons. Tate Southstein's having a good year. John Hill is having a good year, and of course he went to spring training. And the kid Eric Hartman is phenomenal. He's hitting home runs left and right. He's already hit 12. So how much do you get to hear about the kids and hear anything coming out of the front office on their progression?
The most that I do is have those pages bookmarked on my computer and go check the numbers from time to time. I'm familiar with John Hill. I mean, he, like you said, in spring training, really liked watching him take some at bats. I mean, the kid can really hit, and I think he's only going to get better defensively. But outside of that, I mean, I kind of equate it to recruiting when I covered Georgia Tech, right? Like I kept an eye on it. Kind of knew about the prospects or the commits coming in, but my sole focus was on the current team. And that's sort of how I feel about the Braves. Like I'm aware of the prospects, I'm aware of what they're doing, but there's just so much on the plate with the current team and what's going on with them that I think my time is probably more well spent on the current roster and what's happening in the National League East. Not to say that those guys are necessarily out of sight, out of mind. You have to be a little bit steeped in knowledge of what they're doing. But I'd be lying to you if I said I'm watching video of these guys and tracking their at-bats and their analytics and their StatCast and all that stuff. Not yet. I'll get to know them when they get here, right?
You see John in the spring, correct?
Yeah.
You got to see John Hill. So what was your initial thoughts of seeing this young kid?
Big kid, man, big kid. It's interesting that he is a shortstop or third base. I almost wonder if he might. This is just my opinion. If he becomes a DH or maybe even a corner outfielder, because he's just a big kid. Now I think he's got some work to do defensively, but what 19-year-old, 20-year-old doesn't, right? But again, it just you hear baseball people talk about the ball sounding different off a bat. That's the case with John for me. When I saw him play, take batting practice, hit a home run in spring training games. I mean, it sounds a little bit different in a really positive way. So yeah, I mean that kid's got a lot of raw talent. Probably a long way to go before he's groomed to play Major League Baseball. But again, a great prospect to have in the organization because he could make waves in years to come.
Yeah, we agree. We've been asking the same kind of questions before I get to my personal question with you. First of all, what do you think the ceiling of this team? This is a World Series contender, correct, Chad?
Hold on, I lost you there. You still there?
I'm still here. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh, there you go. I lost
What
you for
is
a second.
what's the
I got
ceiling of
no.
this
What'd
team?
you say?
Yeah, what's the ceiling of
I,
this team, Chad?
I mean, I think with what we've seen right now, we have to say World Series champion. I never would have said that coming out of spring training. I think we all thought this team, you know, could compete for a postseason berth, whether that was a wild card or maybe NL East title. But I just thought the Phillies were going to be too good, and the Mets had a lot of talent to be in their way. But I mean, shoot, if everybody stays healthy, and it's only what May 11th as I look at my calendar, if everybody stays healthy, this team has shown they can play with and beat anybody and be competitive and win a million different ways, whether it's 11-4 or 3-1. That the starting pitching is in such a great spot. We don't talk about the bullpen enough, but man, Dylan Lee, Robert Suarez, and Raiso Iglesias at the end. I don't know if you're going to find a better threesome in Major League Baseball out of the bullpen. So all things considered, and what we've seen with the rest of the American League, National League, I don't know if any other team necessarily scares you, right? I mean, like I think you could feel pretty confident in a matchup that the Braves would have with any of these guys because of the way they've performed to this point. Again, a long way to go. People got to stay healthy, but if they do, I mean, there's no reason they can't make a run at this thing in October.
Also the same way. So one of the other questions is, now you didn't get a chance to work with Snell on the daily, but I'm sure you got to meet him around the Hall of Fame, and you
Yeah.
know of him because you work in Atlanta. Any favorite Snit story that you'd like to share?
Well, I got a chance to chat with him at spring training. Really fun to see him in spring training because he was he was like a grandpa, and the Braves were like his grandkids. He was riding around in a golf cart, had this like floral Floridian Braves hat on, khaki shorts, bouncing from one station to the next, joking about how he didn't have anywhere to be, he didn't have any meetings to go to, and really just soaking it all in, being a part of the organization still, but not any of that day to day daily grind responsibilities. So that was really fun to see, and he was really nice to me, giving me some time to talk about Walt Weiss and how good of a manager Walt Weiss was going to be, and why when Walt Weiss was on Brian Snitker's staff, Snit told me how he would panic every offseason that teams were coming after Walt. And I'm sure you guys remember the rumors out there that the Marlins wanted Walt Weiss, and Snit was joking how he was panicked. You're not taking that, are you? You're not taking that job, just like so. That was some funny moments from him telling me about how much he respected and how Walt Weiss and how much Walt Weiss meant to the organization.
Yeah. This guy that's not a Braves fan that doesn't think he has, and of course, he come out of the Snicker lineage, which come out of the Bobby Cox lineage. And I thought the way the Dodgers, and I'll get your comments on it, handled that was tells you what kind of class organization they have. But your just total thoughts on Bobby passing and then the way the Dodgers handle it and the Braves handle it.
Yeah, it's really we talked about Mark Bowman earlier, and it was interesting because we were on the road trip when Ted Turner died as well, and so we from a journalism perspective, this may sound harsh, but you're always thinking about writing that obituary. And to be truthful, a lot of those obituaries are written years in advance, because you have to have that story ready to go. So Ted Turner's, I mean, that story is written a while ago, and Bowman and I were talking about that, and we were talking about Bobby Cox when his time would come, and how a lot of those stories were already pre-written. So it was wild that we had just been talking about that a few days earlier in Seattle, and then lo and behold, we get the news over the weekend in Los Angeles. So yeah, it certainly wasn't unexpected, right? But still tough nonetheless. And anybody who grew up in Atlanta, I mean, Bobby Cox was part of Atlanta history and Braves history. I was 7 years old in 1990 when he was hired. Really, the only manager a lot of us ever knew. We talked to Kyle Farmer about that. Talked to Matt Olson about that. A couple of Atlanta natives as well. Just fun to watch him throughout his tenure get tossed all the time, but also support his guys. And every single comment from everyone around the Braves this weekend, from some Dodgers players, Freddie Freeman talked about it, how Bobby always had your back. It made you feel important. It made you feel like the number one player in the organization, whether you were the third catcher, right, or you were the Andrew Jones or Greg Maddux, right? Everybody was on the same playing field, and he was going to go to battle for you. And so I think you see a little bit of that in Walt Weiss now, right? Maybe not a little bit, maybe a lot of it, right? And I think that's another reason why this team maybe is playing so well, is because of how Walt Weiss took a lot of what Bobby Cox taught and what he stood for and how he managed the game. And it was a different era, no doubt, but one that should never, ever be forgotten and really change the course of Braves history and maybe even baseball history.
I totally agree. I know you're just getting in from the West Coast. They're probably working on it as we speak. Anything you think they're going to do for Bobby, whether they put the 6 on the field like they did for Hank, or wear the number, and they got stuff to maybe do for Ted Turner. You heard any kind of rumors on that?
Not yet, and as of Sunday in Los Angeles, we hadn't heard anything. But you're right. I would suspect there has to be something coming down the pike. I always remember going to Skip Carey's memorial at Turner Field years ago, and thought that was beautifully done. I don't know if that was an off day, or the Braves were out of town, or what the case was, but I remember, I was just driving through town and stopping in Atlanta, and ended up going. So hopefully it's something like that, where the fans, the public, can sort of get together and celebrate the lives of those two men, whether it's, like I said, on an off day or a pregame, or maybe later in the summer, where folks can plan their vacations or their summer trips to Truist Park around that sort of event. I know they'll do something and do it right, because those guys deserve it.
Yeah. I talked to CJ Thursday, and he talked about that was part of the thing. The Braves have this great family, and that's why you see so many guys coming back to work. So I got to get you out. We'll get you out on this. We'll talk about this, because I promised all of our my tech friends. Tech's having a tremendous season in baseball. It's the best year we've ever had. We're 42-8. The school record's 52. We should pass that, hopefully. And my running joke with Chad is that with his busy schedule, he has to come to Omaha if we get to the College World Series. And your answer to that is what, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to. I think it might be me and Wiley Ballard. I think Wiley's going to fire up the Braves Vision private jet to get us out to Omaha from wherever we are that week. I think the question is, do you come out there to Omaha for the opening few games, or do you wait for that final 3-game series and hedge your bets? I mean, that's sort of the juggling act. But yeah, man, it might be something I have to look into if it happens, because it looks like the Jackets are on a crash course. Now, I will say, at Vanderbilt, you never said the O word. You never said Omaha. So it might behoove the Jackets and maybe some of their fans to sort of stop speaking about that, or even the possibility about that, to not be leery of some sort of Omaha jinx because of how long it's been for the old Yellow Jackets. But I don't know, man. This team, it doesn't look like a lot's going to stop them or get in the way this summer.
You'll find this funny. The Jacket fans are already worried about Tennessee be putting in the regional, not getting out of the regional. So he'll know that that's the way we run at Georgia Tech. So Omaha's the furthest thing. That'd be great if y'all come out there. And I think I'm going to hedge my bets and just do for the championship, because if they do get there for the 3 games, I'd want to be there for those 3, Chad. So
no doubt.
Just want to do. So I do appreciate you coming in and taking a few minutes. And I think you're doing a wonderful job. If you are not following, do a subscription to AJC. Chad, I think it's cents a day. And
Yeah.
in baseball, it's 365 days. So you can tell them how to subscribe, and let's get you some more followers.
Yeah, subscribe for baseball season, and then, well, I'm not going to tell you to cancel it, but maybe just subscribe for baseball season and go from there.
It's a long season.
It
Baseball's
is.
a long
It
season,
is.
so
Hey,
you might as well hang in
we
there.
could be going into November at this rate. So see what happens.
Yeah, let's hope so. Well, Chad, I appreciate you, and keep up the good work, and I'll see you around the stadium.
All right, my friend. Bye.
Bye.
You know what, boys? You guys are going to be world champions for the rest of your life.